is just the tip of Shogun World's prick, an experience expressly designed for the guests who find Westworld too tame. We base this park on Japan's Edo period.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Westworld episode 5 video. We finally got to see Shogun World, we got to see Rinko Kikuchi, and a couple really notable Asian actors playing out a really hilarious twist on Westworld narratives. So really cool episode. It's the midway point, so I kind of expected there to be some sort of big climactic moment. And obviously that happened with Dolores and Teddy's storyline, with them paying off one of those arcs that they've been teasing us with all season long. If you're finding me for the first time, be sure to subscribe to get all the Westworld episodes, but let's do top 10 WTF Easter eggs, starting with number 10, the title. So I believe the title Akane no Mai translates to Red Dance. Akane was the name of Rinko Kikuchi's character, who's basically the Shogun World version of Maeve's character. So the Red Dance was the name of the dance that she performed at the end of the episode, but it's also a metaphor about what's literally happening in the park right now with the rebellion, like the red representing the blood that is being shed in the rebellion. So the red dance that the hosts are having with Delos. Number 9, we see Teddy's body in the future. So this is happening 2 weeks into the future because we have Gustav Skarsgård playing the Delos character. So this is them cleaning up the lake, trying to fish all the bodies out of it. They say they've lost about 33%, as if their memory cores have been completely wiped. We find out later through Teddy's storyline what that actually means. But obviously the whole point of this scene was to confirm that it was Teddy that we saw floating beneath the waves. Remembering this is happening in the future, they say that the cradle has been destroyed where all their backups are stored, so they can't use any of that information to reset any of these hosts or to find out what Dolores has been doing. But also they remind you about the swapping of those memory cores. That I think is all foreshadowing for Bernard's storyline, the idea that he's going to have to swap his consciousness. And we saw some footage of that in the teaser for next week's episode, but we can talk about that next week. Remember, he has that memory core that's made for a human consciousness. We're all like, whose human does that belong to? I think the teaser confirms that it's going to be Arnold that's coming back via this core, not somebody else. But number 8, welcome to Shogun World. So we meet a couple of the big actors that we later find are actually just versions of Maeve's group, which was pretty hilarious. But all of Shogun World was really badass. I love the way that they set it up too. Sizemore is much more useful in this place because none of the other hosts like Maeve are familiar with it. So he knows about all the narratives, he knows the geography, he knows where they need to get to, but in no way does that redeem him because he's effectively plagiarized himself. So number 7, they recognize it's an exact copy because they have the exact same bank heist scene that happened last season where Hector comes to town with Armistice. They try to rob the brothel. They have that funny back and forth. It was kind of played for laughs when Maeve was starting to awaken to consciousness because we saw a couple different versions of it happen across the season. But it is really funny to try and see the similarities, and once you realize that this is meant to be a copy, you start guessing which Shogun World characters are doubles of which Westworld characters. Musashi feels like he's supposed to be Hector, but he also has shades of Teddy in him too, because Teddy used to be a really important military figure under Wyatt until he rebelled. So he's a Ronin samurai. I would say he's more like Hector because they're meant to be doubles of this, but he also feels like he could have some Teddy in him too. Like I said, Akane is played by Rinko Kikuchi. She's basically Maeve's character, and the person that she treats like her daughter, like Maeve has a daughter that she cares about, Akane cares about the geisha Sakura. But I think if this is meant to be a one-to-one copy of Westworld, then she's actually more like Clementine, but she treats her the way that Maeve treats her daughter. Probably the funniest part of this, though, was when Sizemore started freaking out, like, oh my god, you're not supposed to be here with your doubles. Anything could happen, feedback loops. And then they pan the camera over to Armistice, who's staring at her double like they're in a mirror or something. So I couldn't really tell which direction they were going to take those characters, but I did love the line, even a snake could be a dragon. If you didn't catch it, that's because the version of Armistice in Shogun World has a dragon tattoo instead of a snake. Number 6, Dolores rolls into town with Teddy, preparing to strip the train down so they can get Abernathy back. Remember, back at the beginning of the episode, 2 weeks into the future, they said that they were still tracking Abernathy down, so that's sort of confirmation that Dolores finds a way to get Abernathy back at some point in the future. But number 5, the Shogun narrative starts to go off the rails, and you start to see some similarities as Maeve starts to flash back to when the Ghost Nation and the Man in Black would come to kill her and her daughter. It's ninjas this time, and Sizemore's still freaking out. They're not supposed to be ninjas in this storyline. What's going on? You have the standoff with the Shogun's men, Maeve gets away. You also find out about number 4, Maeve's secret superpower. So this is just a more powerful version of her vocal commands where she can control the other hosts. But remember, that hasn't been working since the uprising. So what it seems like is happening now is she's doing the same thing in a more powerful way using their Wi-Fi connectedness. Remember, these are machines that are networked together so they can communicate without actually speaking. So it sounds like she's found some way to hack into that ability, and she's using that to issue commands to all of them. The Shogun's men call it witchcraft. I call it really good Wi-Fi. But one of the other things that I forgot to mention is you probably noticed that when the hosts were recognizing their doubles in Shogun World, Maeve would speak or finish lines of dialogue that Rinko Kikuchi's character was speaking because it was the exact same conversation. Like Sizemore had copy and pasted everything from Westworld to Shogun World hosts so that they would speak the exact same lines of dialogue, they would follow the same type of loops with just a couple cultural tweaks for the Japanese Edo period. But number 3, Dolores talks about culling the herd with Teddy, foreshadowing that body that we see in the future. So you're like, okay, they're clearly building towards this, otherwise they wouldn't have shown us his body at the beginning of the episode. What is going to be the thing that sets her off where she finally decides to end him? But she has this creepy conversation about what they do with herd that had been infected by flies. Oh, you're such a nice person. My father killed all the infected. So you're like, okay, very clearly she's going to get rid of him, but it was just a matter of time. They spend the night together, and then she begins to reprogram him, which is probably what they were talking about when they said that the host's mind files had been wiped, as if they were virgin hosts that had never been put into the park. So it's like Dolores completely wiped them back to baseline. One, I think, to turn them into drones in her army, because remember, this is still set in the past right now when she's reprogramming Teddy, so they still have a lot of work to do. But because she's turned them into drones, when she's done with them, it sounds like she just throws them into that lake. But the cool thing here is that, remember, Shogun World, a 1-to-1 copy of the narratives and the hosts in Westworld. So who is the Shogun a copy of in Westworld? I think based on what we've seen from Dolores the last couple of episodes, she's the Shogun going off the rails, mutilating those under her, like she's mutilating Teddy by reprogramming him. The other comparison that you could make too is the way that Maeve controls other hosts by using that mind ability that she has, and also the way that Dolores is going to be controlling the hosts by reprogramming them. Maeve's way is a little more evolved. Dolores' way is through brute force, like physically hacking into each of the hosts and reprogramming their files. Number 2, the actual red dance, Akane no Mai. So the metaphor becomes a literal thing, like she's wearing a red dress that looks like it has blood stained on it. The Shogun kills Sakura, so it's kind of like they're dancing in blood, but the metaphor dance also turns into fight as she kills the Shogun while she's dancing. So if you couldn't tell, the dance itself, the moves she was performing, were actually the events that have been happening on the show so far. Her hand sweeps up past her face as if she's taking a mask off and showing her true self. It's like the hosts coming to consciousness, revealing their true selves. She kills her master, the Shogun, the same way that the hosts have been killing their masters in Westworld this whole time. So it's like someone told you to explain the plot of Westworld using interpretive dance. That's what this red dance is supposed to be. But the cool thing about this is that I think the tune that was playing while she was dancing was actually a Wu-Tang cover. Remember, most of the music this season have been covers of really famous songs. But number 1, of course, was Maeve going Super Saiyan or Ultra Instinct, whatever Dragon Ball metaphor you want to use for her Wi-Fi ability to control other hosts, and has the Shogun's men attack each other, draws a katana just as more are charging in. Some real big telepathic push. Like she's fighting with a sword, but really she's going to be fighting with her mind because she can control other hosts now. I think she'll just get better at it as we get closer to the end of the season. So early prediction, Bernard says that he's responsible for killing them all. Maybe he also has the same type of ability that Maeve has and can area of effect control hosts and force them to do things en masse. She says that she has a new voice that she's waking up to. Don't be surprised if Bernard, when he maybe becomes Arnold because of that special memory core, also has that same power. But let me know in the comments, what was your favorite moment from the episode, and what do you think is going on with Maeve's new ability, and do you think that that special memory core from last week now belongs to Arnold, and they're going to bring him back using Bernard? What'll happen is because Deadpool just dropped, there'll be more videos for that posting soon. Leave all your requests in the comments below, but click here for all my other Westworld videos, and click here for all my Deadpool Easter eggs. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.